talk to me about cash ISAs.
There was a great piece yesterday by Duncan Lamont, who's a really smart analyst at Schroders, who produces amazing stuff on LinkedIn, and I encourage people to follow him to the extent they can. And he did a really, really good kind of academic, deep research takedown of just how problematic it is that Brits are so risk averse, and we have like everybody in cash ISAs and nobody invests in the stock market. And I was traveling around London doing investor meeting yesterday, so I sort of just commented on it and shared it and sort of gave it the big thumbs up. But had I had more time, I would have dredged up a fairly aggressive comment I put on LinkedIn, I don't know, 6 or 7 weeks ago, when there's a journalist called Paul Lewis who he's a BBC journalist, and he's hosted Moneybox, the lead, arguably Britain's leading personal finance weekly or whatever news program. And I've thought he was, without too fine a point on it, pretty clueless for many, many years, right? Given the stuff he talks about and says. But a few weeks ago, to your point about cash ISAs, he contributed an article to The Telegraph that was basically saying, I've never invested in the stock market. I would never invest in the stock market. You should just have cash. And all his mind-blowingly bad reasons for his position. And I posted at the time saying, with financial journalists like this, is it any surprise that we have a growth and productivity problem in this country? And I genuinely think that it's almost to the level of a national scandal. Yeah, that's arguably one of the most senior commentators on financial markets and personal finance at the national broadcaster at the BBC is so completely clueless about wealth creation and about what this country needs to make life better for millions of people. And people following his advice, literally, which will be lots of people of a certain age, the demographic who listen to Radio 4, right? And he will have done them a massive, massive, massive disservice. And it makes me angry, as you can probably tell. And, if the BBC, does the guy have a regulatory status with the FCA? Has he ever passed any exams? He's basically causing enormous financial harm to individuals in this country and to the country by extension. The theme we can come back to. I think a big problem in the UK is that nobody invests and financial literacy is so poor, and that is to be vilified and pounced on. People like that need to be held to account. And I think the BBC, if they have proper oversight of their staff, people at the BBC need to be sufficiently financially literate to know that if their personal finance journalist is commenting in egregious error about something, he's not fit for purpose and he shouldn't be in his post. And that's I know it's a bit harsh. No, but that's my genuine belief. And Duncan put a great piece of research out of sort of the academic evidence for stock market investment over just keeping your money in cash. And that was a point I was making. I actually responded to his article, and I don't think it's a personal finance issue anymore. I actually think it's an economic issue. It's a policy issue now, because 100%. There is £1.5 trillion in either cash deposits or cash ISAs in the UK. Yeah, or US equities. Well, as we discussed last time, but not in British equities. But this is just, that 1.5 trillion is just in cash of some kind. And the point that he made was that if you look at the last X number of years, the UK has lost, in terms of wealth, household wealth, £500 billion in lost household wealth from having that in cash and not invested. Exactly. So that works out to be about per capita about $10,000. But that's just the investing balance sheet side of it, let alone the opportunity costs of not being able to fund a new restaurant group or a new airline or a new software company or a new biotech business that might have a therapeutic cure for something. Well, I mean, and obviously we discussed this last time. You were kind enough to have me on. That's exactly right. It's like a huge part of the reason that Britain is dying, our metaphorical toes are curling up, is because we don't have a functioning, our capital markets don't work anymore. And it's chicken and egg, because you say, all these people poop, why would I ever invest in British shares? They're rubbish, they're structurally bad. Look how badly they've performed. Well, it's chicken and egg. Like, if you export £1.5 trillion, there's no capital to support shares. They will definitionally perform badly because there's no funds flow to support them. There's, businesses can't raise money to do things in the real economy. And it's a huge problem. And of course, the current, by the way, I'm not party political. I always say this, under the Tories, it was dreadful. It started under Blair and Brown. That was actually their change to how the tax treatment of dividends in pension funds was kind of what started the rot. And I can't remember, there was one of the think tanks did a piece about how that was estimated to have raised kind of 5 billion quid a year for the Exchequer, and it's probably that 500 billion pound number is similar. It's, they raised 5 billion quid a year into the government, and they've punished the UK economy to the tune of 500 billion, and it's probably a much bigger number than that. So and just to finish off, I know I crap on.
I know, I love the way it goes in this conversation.
Well, good, but what's your point about $10,000? I mean, that's it. So I've made this point a lot. Where we really see how this all comes home to roost is in GDP per capita. So British GDP per capita is in the sort of mid 40,000 US dollars, right? That's the level it was at 30 years ago. We've basically made no progress whatsoever. And given inflation, that money probably goes, that's supposedly inflation adjusted. It's probably not as effectively inflation adjusted to take account of the real increase in the cost of living that we've all endured. So people in Britain are, in the main, largely materially poorer than they were 30 years ago. Meanwhile, people in Singapore, Australia, America, Denmark, Ireland, South Korea are way, way wealthier because all the fruits of technological progress and research and development and, stock market, capital markets functioning properly has made these people way wealthier. And it's a tragedy. And people like Paul Lewis are absolutely a big part of the reason this has happened. And British people are poorer than they should be.